Sins of a Solar Empire is a 2008 science fiction real-time strategy computer game developed by Ironclad Games and published by Stardock Entertainment for Microsoft Windows operating systems. It is a real-time strategy game that incorporates some elements from 4X strategy games. Its makers describe it as RT4X. In the game, players are given control of a spacefaring empire in the distant future, and are tasked with conquering star systems using military, economic and diplomatic means. The game was released on February 4, 2008, receiving positive reviews and multiple awards from the gaming press. Its first content expansion, titled Entrenchment, was released as a download on February 25, 2009, and its second content expansion, titled Diplomacy, was released as a download on February 9, 2010. A package combining the original game with the first two expansions was released at that time, with the title Sins of a Solar Empire, Trinity. A third expansion, The Standalone Rebellion, was released in June 2012. Gameplay: Sins of a Solar Empire is a space-bound real-time strategy game in which players control one of three different races, the Industrial TEC, the Psychic Advent, or the Alien Visceri. The playing field is a 3D web of planets and other celestial objects in the orbital plane of one or more stars. The game features a sandbox mode, allowing the player to choose different types of solar systems to unlock achievements. Players can conquer neighboring planets and explore distant star systems in a massively scaled, fully 3D environment featuring entire galaxies, orbiting planets, clusters of asteroids, space dust and radiant stars. Notably, there is no single-player campaign mode, but games can be played against AI opponents offline and other players online. Ironclad director Blair Fraser asserted that the game's Iron engine is specially designed with technologies that allow it to handle very large differences in size, scale, and distance. Resources and structures. Sins of a Solar Empire has three main resources together: credits, metal, and crystal. Credits are the general currency used by the three races in the game, and are gained by completing missions, collecting bounties, creating a trade network, and taxing planets. Metal is the most common resource in the game, and is gathered by building extractors on metallic asteroids. It is used to construct basic ships and structures. Crystal is the rarest resource, which can be mined from asteroids like metal. It is used for developing new technologies and building certain advanced ships. A black market feature allows players to convert unneeded metal and crystal into credits or vice versa. Selling or buying too much of either resource can cause market prices to rise and fall dramatically. Certain more intangible resources include supply points and capital ship crews. Supply points are used up when ships are purchased, and cannot be accumulated, acting as a population cap for the player's fleet. Capital ship crews and supply points are both required for the construction of powerful capital ships. Regular capital ships require one crew, while the giant titans in the Rebellion expansion require two. A player's maximum supply points and capital ship crews can be upgraded, but increased supply points require more logistical support, imposing a permanent reduction on the player's income. Players can construct planet-based infrastructure upgrades and orbital structures on and around habitable planets that they control. Planetary upgrades grant bonuses such as higher tax incomes, better planetary bombardment resistance and access to more orbital structures. Orbital structures are divided into civilian logistical and military tactical structures. Logistical structures include asteroid mines, ship factories, trade ports, research laboratories and cultural broadcast stations. Tactical structures include orbital weapons platforms, repair centers, strike craft hangars, and superweapons unique to each playable race. For example, the TEC can build the Novolith cannon, a giant railgun capable of bombarding distant planets. Entrenchment and star bases. The Entrenchment micro-expansion adds new defensive options. Defensive weapon platforms and strike craft hangars gain researchable special abilities, and all factions gain the ability to deploy proximity detonated space mines. The expansion's most notable aspect is the addition of star bases, immense defensive structures with significant firepower and various special abilities. Celestial objects and anomalies. There are multiple types of colony supporting planets and asteroids, with the expansions and later downloadable content increasing the available planet types over the years. Habitable worlds range from Earth-like terrain planets to frozen ice planets and water-covered oceanic planets, with some planets possessing random bonuses such as enhanced factories or better defenses. The player can interact directly with planets in several ways, such as creating trade routes, raining destruction from orbit, or spreading culture via propaganda platforms, which may cause enemy planets to revolt in the player's favor. In addition, there are pirate bases, which are abnormally durable and well-defended asteroids that have no resources but provide a boost to tax income. Furthermore, there are several different spatial anomalies found in the game which serve as obstacles and hazards to all players. These include ice and asteroid fields, which reduce weapon accuracy. Gas giants, which can cause dangerous explosions if a ship is destroyed nearby. Stars, which allow for interstellar jumps but have large gravity wells that are slow to traverse. And various forms of space junk, which do not affect ships directly. Wormholes link some systems, and once the necessary technology has been researched, they can be utilized for instant travel. In addition, DLCs have added traveling hazards such as plasma storms, random rebellions, economic downturns and coronal mass ejections. Neutral forces guard and may even own colonizable planets not occupied at the start by any of the players. Their forces are an assortment of TEC frigates, cruisers and defensive structures. They do not venture outside the gravity well, but will attack anything owned by non-militia forces that enter their gravity well. Pairs of pirate ships sometimes similarly guard uncolonizable gravity wells. Diplomacy and bounty. The diplomacy options of the original game allow players to forge and break alliances and place bounties on their enemies or allies without anybody knowing who placed it. Players can trade resources, establish trade routes between empires, manipulate the commodities market to hinder enemies by utilizing supply and demand, and issue optional missions to allies. Most planets are guarded by neutral TEC fleets, who will attack anyone that ventures near. This is especially true for the aptly named pirate base planets, which are settled by pirates and are heavily fortified. In the game's startup screen, players can also choose to enable pirate raids. This mechanic allows players to anonymously place bounty on other players, with the goal of inducing the pirates to attack that player. The more bounty is placed on another player, then the larger the attacking fleet will be if the pirates choose to attack that player. Pirate raids also gain strength over time, and to deal with them, the player has to find all the pirate bases, which are the spawn points for raids in their respective star system, and wipe them out. Pirate forces are, with one exception, TEC frigates, cruisers, orbital defense platforms, and mines, but they are all unshielded, have heavier armor, often have their armament switched to autocannons, and are heavily customized with spikes and stylized holographic Jolly Rogers. Rebellion also has voiced responses for pirate units. Sins of a Solar Empire, diplomacy, as the name implies, expands upon this mechanic. The relations system is now more visible, and players can give missions to each other, as opposed to the original's NPC-only mission issuing. Diplomatic envoy cruisers can be used to further improve relations, and the researchable pacts can significantly strengthen both sides of the alliance. The expansion also sees a noticeable increase in pirate strength, and their bases are now outfitted with mines and TEC issue repair platforms and strike craft hangars. Tech tree and artifacts. In the base game, each faction has two technology trees, divided between military and civic improvements. These two trees in turn branch off into three race-specific categories. The military tree contains upgrades to armor, shields, and weapons and unlocks units and defensive structures. The civic tree contains upgrades to resource gathering and unlocks civic buildings, PSIDAR, planetary upgrades, diplomacy upgrades, and terraforming. In entrenchment, several elements of both trees, as well as new elements such as starbase-related technology, are merged into the defense tree. In diplomacy, the diplomatic elements from the civic tree, as well as new technology that focuses on upgrading the race's diplomatic envoy cruiser and various other bonuses, are merged into the diplomacy tree. The Rebellion expansion grants additional unique technologies to each sub-faction of the three races. There are many different hidden artifacts that can be found by exploring colonized planets. There are a total of 9 artifacts, each giving the owner a unique and powerful bonus. For example, an alien artificial intelligence can increase economic efficiency across the player's empire, while an ion field technology can fortify planets against attack. When an artifact is discovered, all other players are notified of its location but not its type. Units equals, there are 5 main categories of ships in the base game: capital ships, strike craft, cruisers, frigates and civilian ships. Capital ships are large, powerful vessels and the cornerstones of any fleet. They can gain experience in combat and level up, thus unlocking new abilities. Each race has 5 different classes of capital ship, including battleships, support battler cruisers, colony ships, strike craft carriers and heavily armed dreadnoughts. A player's first capital ship is free, but subsequent capital ships cost large amounts of resources. In addition, each capital ship requires a large amount of supply, and 1 capital ship crew. Strike craft are small, agile ships that launch in squadrons from capital ships, carrier cruisers and hangar defense structures. They are divided into fighter and bomber classes. Fighters are strong against bombers, other fighters and frigates, while bombers are strong against cruisers, orbital structures, and capital ships. Strike craft do not require any resources to construct, and cannot travel through phase space unless carried by their mother ship. Frigates are small, cheap and, individually, weak vessels that fill basic combat and reconnaissance roles, including long-range support, planet bombing, and the colonization of new worlds. Cruisers are the main muscle of an interstellar empire. Heavy cruisers provide close-range firepower, carrier cruisers provide long-range fighter support and race-specific support cruisers provide various other situational advantages. Cruisers are individually more expensive than frigates, but are smaller, faster and cheaper than capital ships. In the base game, cruisers are the only category of ship that is unavailable from the start. Civilian ships are unarmed and, except when a certain TEC technology is researched, unarmored, making them vulnerable to enemy attack. However, they still fulfill a very important role in a player's empire. Construction frigates produce orbital installations like shipyards and laboratories, while trade vessels increase the player's income. In expansions, the Entrenchment expansion adds dedicated anti-structure cruisers and starbase constructor cruisers for the TEC and Advent, and a mine layer cruiser for the Viserai. Diplomacy adds an unarmed envoy cruiser for each race, which can boost relations and provide benefits for other empires. Rebellion introduces fast attack corvettes and super heavy titans, in addition to the aforementioned new capital ship class. Each of the 6 factions of Rebellion has its own unique class of corvette and titan. Corvettes are smaller, faster and weaker than regular frigates, and have different special abilities depending on the faction. Titans, by contrast, are extremely powerful and expensive, much larger than any other vessels, and capable of being leveled up like capital ships. Only 1 Titan can be maintained by a player at any one time. Each Titan possesses unique, upgradable abilities that can reinforce friendly fleets or weaken enemies. In addition, Titan levels are persistent. If a level 10 Titan is destroyed in battle, it can be rebuilt at level 10, without requiring it to repeat the leveling process. Multiplayer players can engage in online multiplayer against either a single opponent or as part of a team through the game's Ironclad online system or by setting up a LAN game. Players can set up 5 versus 5 matches where 2 captains draft the other 8 players. Although the game does not automatically download custom maps made with the Galaxy Forge mode, players can manually choose to download maps as needed. Playable races. Trader Emergency Coalition The Trader Emergency Coalition is an alliance of human worlds with a common economic, political and moral background. It emerged from the earlier Trade Order, which had enjoyed a millennium-long golden age of interstellar peace and prosperity before suffering a devastating attack by the alien Viseri. The defenseless Trade Order was forced to arm itself and reorganize into the authoritarian TEC to prevent total defeat. The TEC is less technologically advanced than the other two races, but excels at economic development and attrition warfare, fielding fleets of heavily armored warships supported by an immense industrial infrastructure. At the beginning of a new game, uncolonized planets are protected by independent militia fleets of TEC warships which will try to prevent any faction, including the TEC, from establishing colonies. Advent The Advent were originally a pseudo-religious society of humans who sought escape and spiritual release on the frontier of human space during the great interstellar wars that preceded the rise of the Trade Order. Over time, their culture became focused on the use of synthetic neurochemicals, bioengineering, cybernetics, and other transhuman technologies to achieve self-actualization and cultivate various psychic abilities, which became highly valued traits. This unrestricted experimentation resulted in a burgeoning communal mentality calling itself the Unity. When the Unity's colony was discovered by the nascent Trade Order, their collectivism and biotechnological practices were branded as perverse and sinful. The Unity as a whole was forcibly exiled from their home planet and expelled from Trader space. A millennium later, the Unity, now calling themselves the Advent, returned to known space to exact revenge upon the TEC, having developed into a powerful and militant culture with a mastery of psychic technology, which the Advent dubbed Psytech. Advent warships are elegant and well-armed with advanced energy weapons but lightly armored, favoring energy shields for defense and Psytech abilities to control the battlefield. Their civilization focuses on dominating nearby planets with cultural influence, which they can spread more effectively than the other races. Viseri The Viseri are the only truly alien race in the game. The Viseri Empire was once the strongest in the galaxy, formed by peacefully assimilating primitive races and brutally crashing more advanced ones, turning the populations of both into subservient vassals. 10,000 years before the events of the game, the Viseri began to lose contact with their central worlds as they came under attack from unknown forces. Before long, much of their empire had gone dark, leading to a desperate assault by the entire Viseri military on their nameless enemy. When only one ship returned, with its crew apparently driven mad by fear, the surviving Viseri colonists decided to flee their former territory. Ever since, their fleet has moved from system to system, stopping only to gather resources before moving on, constantly aware of their mysterious enemy's approach. The Viseri are extremely technologically advanced, with more powerful weapons than the other races and an advanced grasp of nanotechnology and phase space manipulation. However, their ships are more expensive than their Advent and TEC counterparts. Rebellion factions The Rebellion expansion is set 30 years after the initial Viseri invasion, and depicts the outbreak of civil war within each of the three races. In gameplay, it replaces the three races with 6 factions, dividing each race into a loyalist and a rebel faction and adding different researchable upgrades for each. Rebels and loyalists inherit the basic tech trees and units of their respective races, and a major diplomatic relations penalty toward each other. The TEC loyalists are isolationists who focus on fortifying their defensive infrastructure. They can build additional star bases in each gravity well, research the TEC faction's superweapon more quickly, and possess the Ankylon Titan, which is an enormously durable fleet support ship. The TEC rebels, by contrast, are xenophobic revanchists who desire to annihilate the TEC's enemies outright. They can marshal militia factions to aid them, make alliances with pirate fleets, and can build the Ragnarok Titan, a giant long-range attack vessel. The Viseri loyalists, fearing the approach of their unknown enemy, seek to rapidly acquire resources and flee the galaxy. With some research, they are able to migrate without settled planets in-game. They can deploy taxable populations and laboratories on board their capital ships, strip mine entire planets into dead asteroids, and build the frontal attack focused for Astra Titan. The Viseri rebels seek to unite the other races against their approaching enemy, and can research powerful alliance bonuses and shared defensive upgrades. Their Titan, the Kulturask, is capable of swiftly crippling enemy fleets. The Advent Loyalists retain their single-minded focus on revenge, and now employ even more powerful mind control technologies. Their own planets can spread culture without any structures. They can instantly mind control the cruiser frigates fleeing Advent Loyalist-controlled gravity wells, and their Coronata Titan can instantly brainwash an entire planet. The Advent rebels, however, fear that the Unity has been corrupted by its ancient vendetta, and desire to find peace with the TEC and Viseri. Their purified Unity is capable of permanently resurrecting fallen Advent frigates and creating temporary clones of destroyed enemy forces, and they can even sacrifice an entire planet's population in order to cause damage to enemies in nearby gravity wells. The Rebel Eradicate Titan is a powerful direct combat warship which grows stronger as it takes damage. Development: Sins of a Solar Empire was released without any form of copy protection, but a product key registered to an Impulse account was required for updates and multiplayer in the original game. The game had a development budget below $1 million. On November 16, 2011, Sins of a Solar Empire, Trinity was made available for purchase on Steam. Game engine Sins of a Solar Empire a Scion engine offers size and scale technologies that deliver convincingly large stars and planets next to comparably small orbital structures, starships and strike craft. The engine also features bump mapping on planets and ships, specular lighting, dynamic fractal generation for stars and clouds, and bloom. Customization Sins of a Solar Empire includes various customization features, among them a level editor that allows players to generate maps for both single and multiplayer use by setting their general properties. Matches can also be recorded and watched, and the game supports custom modifications. Ironclad Games maintains a collection of user-created works of all three kinds. The developer has also released the editor used to create the game's scenarios and a set of the development tools. Through the use of this editor, the player can dictate the number of star systems in their game, the number of planets orbiting each star system, and various other options. Lastly, the game keeps track of a variety of achievements, some of which are triggered by ordinary gameplay actions, or by winning with voluntary restrictions. Expansions: Ironclad has released 3 main expansions, which are available on Ironclad's website and Stardock's digital distribution service, Impulse. In addition, the base game and the first 2 expansions are available in a combination package entitled Sins of a Solar Empire, Trinity. To prevent fracturing in the multiplayer community, features of the expansion packs are only available if both competing players have the expansions installed. If not, the features are disabled for the multiplayer game. Entrenchment On August 29, 2008, Ironclad and Stardock announced Entrenchment. The expansion includes new weapon upgrades and defense platforms, including modular star bases. Originally scheduled for November 18, 2008, it was released on February 25, 2009. Diplomacy On August 26, 2009, the second expansion was announced. Diplomacy expands the diplomatic element of the game, allowing players more control over alliances and making diplomatic victory possible, as well as offering incentives for peace and cooperation, including pacts which provide economic, research and military bonuses between factions. The opponent AI, pacing and number of game scenarios are also improved. Diplomacy was released on February 9, 2010. The Sins of a Solar Empire, Trinity combination package was also released on the same day. Rebellion On March 1, 2011, Rebellion the game's third expansion, and first full standalone expansion was announced. Rebellion adds new Loyalist and Rebel factions to each playable race, a new capital ship for each race, new Titan super capital ships, and light combat corvettes, as well as unique research topics for each Rebel Loyalist faction. Rebellion also includes an updated graphical engine. Exactly 1 year from the announcement, the beta was made available for pre-order customers without prior warning. Rebellion was officially released on June 12, 2012, and includes all previously released content. The expansion uses Valve Corporation's Steam to download and install updates. The British video game developer Rebellion Developments has been opposing the use of Rebellion in the name of the game since 2012 due to trademark law. DLCs, 2 downloadable content packs have been released for Rebellion. Forbidden Worlds was released on June 5, 2013, and adds 4 new planet types and new colonization options. Stellar Phenomena was released on November 6, 2013, and adds interstellar hazards such as black holes, pulsars, coronal mass ejections and neutron stars, which have various impacts on combat and exploration. Reception: Sins of a Solar Empire has met with generally positive reviews and received several awards. The game holds an aggregate score of 87.8% based on 45 reviews at Game Rankings, and an aggregate score of 87% based on 52 reviews at Metacritic. Game Informer named it the PC Game of the Month, and awarded it a 9/10 review. The UK edition of PC Gamer awarded the game a rating of 84%. GameSpot awarded the game a 9/10, as well as an Editor's Choice Award. GameSpy awarded the game a 4.5/5, as well as an Editor's Choice Award. IGN awarded the game an 8.9/10, as well as an Editor's Choice Award and giving it the PC Game of the Year award. The game was awarded the title Best Strategy Game of the Year 2008 by X-Play and Game Trailers. Much praise for the game has been directed towards the game's clever blend of RTS and 4X gameplay, the seamless zoom function, and the user-friendly Empire tree and UI. That the game was designed to play efficiently on older as well as newer PCs has garnered considerable praise. Criticism has been focused on the lack of a single-player campaign, sporadic game crashes when played online, and the potentially lengthy gameplay times. Following the 1.03 patch, with increased game speeds, this problem has been slightly improved, although games with 6 or more players can sometimes still take 4 hours or more. Sales equals. In September 2008, Stardock's CEO, Brad Waddell, stated that Sins of a Solar Empire has sold over 500,000 units, with 100,000 of those being download sales, on a development budget of less than $1 million. The game sold 200,000 copies in its first month of release alone. The 2012 Rebellion expansion sold over 100,000 digital copies in its first month of release, setting a Stardock sales record for digital retail. References. External links. Official website, Sins of a Solar Empire at Moby Games.